Welcome to the Four Rooms podcast, where we explore the four rooms of entrepreneurship: health, wealth, scale, and relationships. Each episode is dedicated to opening new doors and uncovering insights that empower you to design your entrepreneurial journey to be both lucrative and fulfilling. And now, your hosts, Amber Spears and Brett Kaufman.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Four Rooms podcast. I am your host, Brett Kaufman. I am joined by the mighty Michael Hunter. What is going on, my man?
Thanks so much for having me, Brett. Excited to be here today.
You know, I, like you, go to a million events, and I seem to connect with people super well at events. But dude, there was like something immediately when I met you. I was like, this guy knows a ton. And then we took that nice leisurely stroll before dinner. And I'm like, tell me about you. And all of a sudden, you just gave me so many downloads about how to level up our business and our brand. And that's why I'm so excited to chat with you today.
Awesome, man. Excited to jump in.
So why don't you give people a little bit of background first, who you are, what you do, who you serve?
Yeah, my name is Michael R. Hunter, and I've been in the thought leader, author, speaker, coach, influencer space, helping them monetize, package, and position their knowledge to make an impact and an income since about 2011. And over that journey, I've worked with people, helping them make their first dollar online, all the way up to working with household names and running 8-figure influencer businesses. Most notably was CMO for Brennan Burchard between 2015 to 2017, and learned a lot of things along the way, and have unique perspectives on brand, on monetization, on scale, and also doing it in a way where at the end of you're not the cost of the success. And so I know that's a perfect alignment with the message and the ethos and everything everything that Four Rooms is all about. So I'm excited to share a little bit more about my journey and some of the lessons, tools, tips, and strategies I've learned along the way.
Hell yeah. And I think because we met for our listeners at Alex Mosco's event, who is a wizard at running very profitable events. And so I actually want us, when we talk about branding, words are escaping me. I want us to talk about branding through the lens of throwing an event and how that helps branding in regards to like online, and then branding when like people just hear your name. So because in our audience, we're grateful it's between 7 to 9 figures, average being 8 figures. And a lot of them throw their own events. A lot of them have their own podcasts. A lot of them are like, especially in the coaching and info. So their face is what's out there. But even our friends that have successful e-com stores, how can they think of branding that way? But I'd love to start talking to our friends that throw events and talk about what you do with Brandon in order to build up and make that successful.
Yeah. First and foremost, just to like baseline the conversation, and everyone right now is talking about branding and personal brand. And what I've found is that if you ask 10 different people what brand and branding is, you get 10 different answers, right?
Yeah.
And so there's also a lot of confusion, and people conflate the terms brand and branding. So one is the process with which to influence the other. Branding can influence your brand, but your brand actually isn't something that you have any control over. And to speak specifically about events for a moment, nothing exposes your brand like a live event, because there's so many different touch points. And what a brand actually is, your brand isn't what you say about yourself. It's not your messaging. It's not your positioning statement. It's not your tagline. It's not your content. It's not your photo shoot. It's not your headline. It's not your logo. It's not your fancy website. Your brand isn't what you say about you. It's what your customers say about you. And so ultimately, through the process of branding, we can influence what our customers say. And that's what the power of great world-class branding does, is it spoon feeds powerful language that our customers can use to refer our ideal customers. But at the end of the day, we all know how valuable a referral is. Like a warm, hot referral lead is obviously the easiest to close. Like that person's already coming in to that conversation pretty much aware of what we do, knowing they already most likely want to buy, and it's just a matter of answering a few questions and closing the deal. Well, that's what, when you do brand right, that every lead feels like a warm lead, because they're coming to you understanding what you already do. They're understanding how you operate, who you help, and they're self-identifying as, hey, I'm that person. I want what you have to deliver, and I want to be a customer or a client. So whether you're running an event or running an e-commerce business or running an info business or brick and mortar, or you're a real estate investor or you are a real estate lender, at the end of the day, our brand is providing trust, credibility, and authority that enables us to work with our biggest and best clients that are wanting to work with us.
I love that. And I'll also just add to that, which is like wrapped up to what you're saying. It's also about being your most authentic self. And I also I hate that term now because I feel like everyone's just regurgitating the same words. But when I bring that up, I specifically in some of my close friends, when we talk about it, we talk about how weird can you be? And what that means is just like I love doing improv. I love salsa dancing and bachata dancing. And it's funny because I don't know if we know this is not my full time. I have an email agency. And whenever I post about getting you out of spam and stuff like that, or post about 4 rooms, it does fine. But when I post about improv, it does amazing. And I'm like, oh, that's hysterical. And then if I close someone from that, I'm like, well, what brought you in? They're like, I saw you dancing. I saw you on stage doing improv. I'm like, oh, that's funny. So it's just when people can connect with you, chances of them working with you drastically shoot up.
Totally. That's part of branding and our approach to crafting personal brands. I would say most people's experience with brand, and especially brand agencies, is kind of like their experience with salesmen. We have this ick factor of our experience with the worst version of a salesperson. You hear salesperson, you immediately think car salesman or something, right? Mm-hmm. Well, when you're in the presence of a really high level salesperson, you don't even know you're being sold. And so at the end of the day, we don't even remember the experiences of good salespeople because they're so effective at what they do. And it feels, and they're genuinely interested in helping. They have that authenticity. They're not trying to sell you on something that's not the right fit for you. And so ultimately, when it comes back to that word authenticity that you mentioned, I feel like that word is something that's overplayed. It's become cliche. Everyone's saying it, and they say that word with a very surface level meaning, or they misplace that word authenticity for an excuse to verbally process and over communicate while they're in the middle of their process. Alex, this past weekend, he put it very artfully. Alex Moscow's quote was share your scars, not your wounds. So there's a lot of people in the name of authenticity out there just airing all their dirty laundry in the name of being authentic, but that's actually not helpful. And so there's this balance between showing up, branding your authentic self out of a core solid foundation of who you are, your skill set, and who you want to serve, that allows you to actually be powerfully authentic, not just surface level authentic.
Oh, totally. And I remember, because follow that up, maybe someone asked or someone made that comment, made me laugh. Whenever now I see trigger warning on someone's post, I'm so tuned out to that. I'm ugh, no, or vulnerable posts ahead, or I think it's funny. Again, I also appreciate this trend, but I also kind of laugh at it when they say when they show videos and pictures of people and they're he doesn't know or she doesn't know that this is about to happen. You know that trend that's happening on Instagram. And I know it's coming from a good place, but I just kind of get an ick when I listen to it. I'm this just doesn't feel, I don't know. Maybe that could be a jaded marketer, but it doesn't feel authentic to me.
Yeah. And we've all seen experiences where someone shows up one way online and then you get in a live event and they get on stage and there's a disconnect, right? So that's where authenticity matters. Just making sure that what you're communicating online, that your presence is actually embodied in your message, embodied in your brand, and that you're showing up fully expressed, not hiding any aspect of who you are, but also not having a facade. Consciousness is rising on the planet, especially these younger generations. They're old souls, man. They can, especially growing up with technology, they can distinguish AI from real life. Even things where AI is getting so good, it's actually getting a little bit difficult to tell, but they can sniff it out a mile away. And so it's more important as we step into this next level of leadership, having that level of solid foundation, of authenticity rooted in a solid foundation of expertise and service is the strategic advantage in this next new age.
And so when you take on a new client and they're hey, let's say in this example, because I'm going to think of our audience, again, 7 to 9 figure founders, they're already doing well, but they're I know I need to level up. Maybe they want to get in front of more stages, podcasts, whatever it is. Can you just walk me through what that beginning engagement with them looks like?
Yeah. So all of our client engagements start with a deep brand discovery process. And most of the people that work with us are just like your ideal clients, the people that are showing up to 4 rooms, the people that are listening to this podcast. I call it the good enough syndrome. We have a website that's good enough. We just spent a bunch of money on a website a couple of years ago. Why do we need to do that again? It's good enough. We know that it's not deeply resonating, but it's there. It's good enough. And ultimately what happens is with that good enough mindset, we end up paying what I call the invisible tax. So ultimately, what's happening is we're getting a lot of word of mouth. We're having opportunities come to our online presence. And just like in real life, we all know from a psychological and biological perspective, when we meet someone for the first time, subconsciously, we're making a judgment about that person within the first half second of interacting with them, whether we can like them, whether they're credible, whether what they're saying is true, and whether or not we want to be friends with them or work with them or continue the conversation. And that same exact thing is happening when people come to your website. And so we spend so much time in as business owners obsessing over copy, obsessing over ads, obsessing over funnels, but there's usually a disconnect between the visual communication and the written communication, and that's where we help our clients level up, because that invisible tax, ultimately, we're only when you have that feeling of good enough and our website's good enough, you're only interacting with the bottom 80% of leads. So it's not like you're on the calls with these customers and they're just deciding to go with a competitor or deciding now's not the right time. Like, we're just not even having the phone call with the people that are willing to pay the premium, that are the best, that are willing to, the best clients that can afford your service and are willing to pay a premium. So that's what happens when clients work with us and go through our entire process. They show up fully expressed. They have a world-class website. You can go to personalbrand.com and see some of our portfolios of client work just to get an idea of the level that we're playing at. And one of my favorite stories is our client, Eliza, who before working with us, she had a best-selling book. She was getting booked at corporate keynotes and university keynotes, but it really wasn't translating into anything else. And after working with us, up-leveling her brand, she landed a deal at a keynote at Apple, and it translated into $125,000 worth of workshop gigs, doing 8 workshops across all different organizations of Apple. She was able to charge more for that keynote, and it translated to more business just from a tweak in positioning, credibility, authority, and ultimately she's having a bigger impact with her message and with what she's doing.
So for, again, our listeners that are in that space, right? Hey, I want to get booked more. Like, what was her issue prior, and then what was the tweak in positioning you did that allowed her to get this huge jump?
Yeah, so she had a best-selling book. She was on the Drew Barrymore show. She's an amazing and articulate communicator. She has a powerful message. Her book is A Woman's Guide to Claiming Space. And she was getting all the media appearances, but it wasn't necessarily translating to dollars in her bank account. And she had a website that, a younger relative created, and it was good enough. Like, it was accessible. You could buy her book. You could get more information about what she did, but it definitely wasn't at the level of credibility and that she needed to reach that next level and to shift that gear. And so ultimately, to summarize some of the creative work and the positioning work we did with Eliza, she had the book, A Woman's Guide to Claiming Space. She would speak, but she would have men come up to her afterwards saying, hey, like, your book and your message isn't just valuable for women, it's also valuable for men. So she was working with her strategist, and they were kind of guiding her to shift her positioning into strategic communication. So through our brand discovery process and our brand extraction process, we were diving into this, and we found out that she also owns an acting school, and she's had in New York, and she has, she's had for the past 20 years, she's owned this acting school, and she's had a ton of successful actors come out of her acting school, but she felt like she always had to hide that from her corporate career, and that it was discounting who she was and what she was doing and her as a powerful executive. And so what we did was, through that process, we started to ask questions, and we started to find the throughput between women's empowerment, strategic communication, and acting, and that word was confidence, because in all three of those things, confidence is a key component. And so we came up with the positioning, act with confidence. And so this thing that she felt like she had to hide because it didn't lend credibility to her corporate career, now she can pull in the exercises and the practices and the workshops that she did in her acting school straight to the boardroom, and it adds instant credibility, all of her experience. And so she gets to show up fully expressed, all of who she is, tying in her story, tying in her passion with all of her credibility to make a bigger impact with her message, so she can move forward in the world, not feeling like she's hiding part of herself, but actually using all of her tools to drive a bigger impact for people. So that was just one example of how our process works, the positioning, and how that positioning translated into higher keynote fees, and then also workshops that are designed to have a bigger impact.
Dude, I love that, because like as soon as you said that, I do a lot of MC work for big marketing conferences, and I use so many of the improv techniques I've been taught, but I just haven't really thought about it, even like talking about it in my content. And the few times I have, people are like, oh, and I'm like, okay, got it. It's like that, like the invisible tax. I am suffering from the invisible tax, Mike. Okay, this makes so much sense. I love that. Yeah. So I'm just thinking a lot about what you're saying. Because again, I'm really thinking about our people, but now I want to shift to e-com, because I have like, oh my God, when you come to San Diego, dude, I'm going to be walking you around and be like, here, all these people need to talk to you. So we come from the direct response marketing space. We're so used to getting that nasty ad. When I say nasty, like really well dialed in ad that just converts. But eventually, it might fatigue, and therefore, you either just keep going that route or you start building a brand. But that's a challenge, especially if you're trying to figure out what it stands for. So can you walk us through, when you work with an e-com client, that it's not a person as the face of it, like how do you help them develop a brand?
Yeah. So when it comes to brand, my chief branding officer at personalbrand.com, he has Fortune 100 brand experience. So we're bringing billion-dollar brand strategies to the personal brand space. And while our core client profile is someone developing a personal brand, our whole positioning is we make brands personal. So whether it's a personal brand or a company brand or an e-commerce product, the goal is to make that brand, that product personal, and communicate a message that deeply resonates. And so it's really about whether you're selling a product or a service, like what is that transformation that product creates, and finding powerful language, powerful, simple, memorable, and repeatable language with which to talk about that product or service. And so that's really what our process dives deep into, and our clients pay us for is to like guide them through that process, ask questions, because oftentimes we're too close to our own product or service. We're too in the weeds, too in the day to day. And what happens, especially as you grow into that 7 and 8 and 9 figures, is we know too much about our product. And so we want to communicate all the bells and whistles and how everything works and all the features and all the benefits. And we forget that all they want is the destination. My favorite analogy, and it's used across a lot of people have said it, like, but when we're too close to our product and our service, we forget that that ultimately our product is the beach, and we start selling the plane. Right. And so we start talking about all the bells and whistles of the plane and the engine and the air conditioning and the all the different aspects of how you're going to get there, versus just like really getting focused on the desired outcome and communicating that. So at the end of the day, to summarize it, it's about humanizing the brand. It's about having a quality product or service that creates transformation. And then most importantly, it's about letting your customers do your branding and your marketing for you. What you say about your brand might be true. What your customers say about your brand is almost certainly true. And so it's oftentimes about lifting up the voices of your customers, your raving fans, and letting them do a lot of the marketing and have you lift for you.
So say that person, again, I'm speaking to e-com stores here, and they are starting, they are starting to build out their brand. They're in the branding phase, as you're talking about, and they need to do the research. Or do you recommend they send out certain types of surveys, or how do you start collecting that information to figure out really what their raving fans are talking about?
Yeah, I think it's the biggest misconception in the online marketing space, direct response space. Like, so much of us were sold on the laptop lifestyle, sit on the beach with the pina colada, make money in our sleep and stuff. And a lot of us get into this space, wanting to have that leverage and wanting to create that income without talking to people. But the difference between brands that crush it and the brands that are kind of on the treadmill of constantly having to work creative and sift through all these things and hack the algorithms, it's really having conversations with your ideal customer, asking what they want, asking what their experience with the product, how can we make it better. And so I would say if you're at scale, yes, surveys are a great way to get aggregate data points, but also people just kind of give a half effort in a survey, and you're not really able to ask deeper questions. And so I think one of the best things that you can do is just have real life, authentic questions with your ideal customer. Create the safe space where they're actually providing tangible and valuable feedback, where you don't need to hear how great your product is over and over and over again. You need to hear where your process can be improved, no matter how good your product or service is.
Yeah, so I heard this from one of my friends who said he adds this to his website after someone buys, and he added, "What was the reason why you almost did not buy?" And you just get so much data from there. It's confusing. It wasn't clear. I wasn't sure about this. I was like, wow. Because like like what you're saying too, you don't want necessarily everyone to praise you. You want to figure out like what's going on and what they're really thinking, because that's how you iterate it and make it better.
Totally.
Cool.
Yeah, and then ultimately, I think one of the things, like whether you're doing e-commerce or real estate investing, or running an influencer business or any type of business, like one of the biggest challenges aside from marketing the product is like team. And one of, going back to like the premise at the beginning of the conversation, like every business problem is a brand problem, and how a brand needs to inspire you, your team, and your customers. We hit this point in our entrepreneurship journey where like we make our first hire, we have our first team of 5 or 10, and delegating tasks is easy, but then we become the bottleneck. And so when you do brand right, it's not just a service level concept, it's a strategic imperative throughout your entire organization, where it helps replicate quality decision making. And that's the hardest thing to do as you scale an organization, is replicate quality decision making, so that it's not all the decisions in the organization aren't bubbling back up to you. And so I equate this to being a parent. I'm not yet a parent, God willing, I'll be a parent someday, but I have parents, right? But and so ultimately, like, how do you raise a child? You're not there to make every single decision for them throughout their entire life. And so how do you ensure that you set them on the right path? It's instilling quality values. And so we hear these concepts like a vision statement and a mission statement and brand positioning and core values. And if you do brand too early, those things are super fluffy, because you have no real world experience. You have to have these big general terms that cast wide nets and don't really mean anything. But when you're at that point of scale, that's how you actually create and replicate quality decision making throughout your organization, is having that clear, crystal vision, setting values, not just like, oh, we do the right thing, we love our customers, like all this fluffy stuff, but like, how do you instill values so that your team can know how to navigate and make quality decisions that's going to actually move you closer to your end result? And that's where brand comes from, just like this luxury surface level thing, to actually something that will drive your next level of growth. And so ultimately, that's how we think about branding, is one, yes, executing on a world-class visual presence, but also how can we create it as a strategic imperative that flows all the way through your entire organization, so that you can actually reach scale without burnout.
Dude, I love that. That was so well said. And it's actually a perfect segue to my favorite part of the show, which is called One Hot Minute. So this is where you're going to be branding yourself. So One Hot Minute is my favorite part of the show, where if someone just listened to this 60-second clip, they just tuned in right now, right? Nothing before. And they could get a 6-second clip of you talking about whether it's like a belief you have, a mantra you have, just maybe it's a quote you love, that like, if they just want to like really understand who you are in 60 seconds, what is like, it could be a lesson you want to teach someone. They only got this one soundbite. What do you want to put in that 6 seconds? Does that make sense? All right. So we got our One Hot Minute, 60 seconds on the clock, starting now.
So there's a quote from a gentleman named Alfred D. Souza, and I'm going to read it. And this is something that deeply resonates with my soul, and it's such a good reminder as we're on this path of entrepreneurship, because so often we look at everyone's front stage and we don't get to see the backstage. We get to see them glamorizing the results, but we don't actually get the perspective of all of the cluster behind the scenes. And that's one of the things that on my personal journey I'm so grateful for, is just seeing so many different businesses from so many different angles, and just realizing that while some people have their things together better than others, no one has it all figured out, and we're all on this journey together. And so this quote from Alfred D. Souza is, "For a long time, it seemed for me that life was about to begin. Real life. There was always some obstacle in the way. Something to be gotten through first, some unfinished business, time still to be served, a debt to be paid. Then life would finally begin." at last it dawned on me that these obstacles were my life. And so as we go on this path of entrepreneurship, one of the things I'm so passionate about is sparking, inspiring entrepreneurship. I just happen to be the founder of Spiffy Checkouts and the founder of personalbrand.com. And those are the vehicles that I'm using to inspire and uplift other voices. But it's really easy to feel like these obstacles in front of us are a negative reflection of who we are and how we're showing up. But just normalizing that we're all facing obstacles, that these are part of the path. And one of the things I love helping our clients figure out is just like being extremely clear and knowing that there's going to be obstacles on our path, but just making sure that we're choosing the hard. Entrepreneurship is hard no matter what, but you don't want to go down a path where you're stumbling over hurdles that are really hard and that don't ultimately get you to where you want to go. And so for me, like sparking and inspiring entrepreneurship and helping people choose their hard to make sure that when they get through that hard, when they get over those obstacles, they actually are at where they want to be. That's my deepest passion in life.
Let's go. That was great. Thank you for sharing that.
Sweet, man. Yeah. I read that quote a few times a month, and even for me, it's a quality reminder. And it's something that's just like, it's easy to get caught in the frustration of the day or the overwhelm of the immediacy of deadlines and all these different things. And it's just a good reminder that, hey, this is supposed to be hard. That's why we're doing it. Yeah.
There's something that I started adding into my life. I think it started back in 2000. I want to say like 14 when I went through my first stage of depression, but I didn't really understand it consciously. And like then I kind of coined the phrase, though I did not come up with this concept, called mandatory happy moments. So just like, you have to go to the dentist, you have to go to the doctor for like checkups. You have to, if you want to stay in shape and healthy, you have to go to the gym, you have to wash your clothes. Mandatory happy moments are things that you love that you have to do. And for me, I try doing something every day. And so like it could be improv, salsa, it could be going to like dinner with friends, it could just be like going on a run, whatever it is. But I try to every day have an endorphin kicking mandatory happy moment. So then I flood myself with something good every day. So like if my day is bad, mandatory happy moment at night. My day is neutral. If my day is good, mandatory happy moment, it's great. If my day is great, mandatory happy moment, my day is euphoric. And the more I stack those days, the better I feel. And it helps me get through the hard of being an entrepreneur. So that's my thing.
Dude, I love it. And that's actually a perfect tie-in to like what we do at Personal Brand too, is like getting really down to the core of like what do you value, and making sure that's weaved into the journey. Like one of our clients is a big YouTuber. He's not motivated. Like he's making good money. But he's not motivated by money. His next level isn't like to get more for himself. He's motivated by freedom for him and for others. And so not just that being the end destination of freedom, but the process needs to feel like freedom too. So like what you just described, like you value happiness. And so weaving that into your day-to-day life is what allows you to feel fully alive and allows you to show up as your best self. And so this is where our process, it's not about just getting clear on like where you want to go, but also making sure you get there in a sustainable way too. So what you just shared was so beautiful and awesome, and a great reminder for all of us just to enjoy the process, to weave into the fabric of this journey of entrepreneurship, making the journey enjoyable.
Absolutely. Man, this was a great chat. And for those that want to stay in touch and potentially work with you, where's the best place they can find you?
Yeah, check out our work. Personalbrand.com is our website. Reach out to me on social media, on LinkedIn, on Instagram, or on X at Michael R. Hunter. You can just search Michael R. Hunter. That's my handle across all social platforms. Would love to answer any questions, connect with you, and see if we can help get you to your next level.
And he will be at our San Diego event, The Whole Entrepreneur, so you can obviously connect with him there, and it would be amazing because, dude, I'm so excited to introduce you to people there. You're gonna have a great time.
I'm excited too.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for coming on, and we'll chat soon.
As we wrap up today's episode, we have something special just for you. If you've been inspired by what we've explored today and you're ready to take your learning to the next level, then our 4 Rooms Mastermind live event is the perfect next step. And because you're a part of our podcast family, we're offering an exclusive 10% discount on your registration when you apply and are accepted. This is your chance. It's your chance to build relationships with other ambitious entrepreneurs like yourself, to dive deeper into the 4 rooms of entrepreneurship, and to connect with experts who can truly help accelerate your growth. Simply follow the event link in the description of this episode and use the promo code 4rooms10. That's FOURROOMS10 on your application to claim this opportunity. This offer is subject to application approval and it's limited, so don't wait too long to make your decision. Join us and transform your journey with the insights and networking that only our live events can offer. Thank you for tuning in today. We look forward to seeing you at the event and, of course, right back here next time on the 4 Rooms podcast. Until then, keep balancing and keep growing.